what's wonderful is to come into a role where you can't get to the end of it. You're just you never. There's no sort of figuring it out. You just keep experiencing it, and it's full of surprises to you.
Sigourney, it's great to chat with you again. And Joel, great to meet you. I've been a big fan of your work just as much as Sigourney's here. And I got to say, so Paul Schrader has just been on a hot streak of late with his morality tales centered on these characters with troubled pasts. And Master Gardener is another wonderful entry into his filmography, as well as both of yours. Sigourney, I'll start with you. And then Joel, what about the script really spoke to you to want to be a part of it?
I had never read a script like it. It was so precise and elegant and odd, fascinating. I really, you read a lot of scripts. He does not do any explanation, any background. He just throws you in it. And I was just so taken by the skill of it and what he was taking on through this story of these three very different people. I just thought it was masterful and unlike anything I'd ever done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that and echo a little what Sigourney's saying. There's something so efficient in not just the way Paul writes, but the way Paul does everything, the way he chooses shots, the way he talks to you as an actor. He has a great instinct and he reaches for that immediately. And I think that in his writing, he's very confidently laying out a story that he's not trying to over-explain, and he's allowing an audience to sort of meet him halfway. It's a very special thing. And, I'm glad you asked, because reading the screenplay, most audiences don't ever get to do that. I think now they can search for them online. If you love a movie, it's really a really interesting experience to then go and find out where that movie started on the page. Paul's a great writer, like has always been.
He really has. And I mean, he has very few misses, specifically from what you both said about his efficiency and his dedication to just jumping right in. And with that said, Joel, you're certainly no stranger to psychological dramas. You've even directed yourself in one before. But what I love about Narvel in comparison to prior characters is that when we start with him, he is in a more positive place than some of other characters you've played before, where he's found a healthier outlet to sort of process everything he's gone through. What is it like, or how did it compare for you to explore Narvel in comparison to prior works?
Well, I remember when I was reading the screenplay, and I think it's because I'm equipped with the knowledge of Paul and his filmography, is I was going, okay, where's the contrasting worlds here? That as we're moving through these pathways of the garden and hearing Narvel talk about the garden and plants and their evolution, and I was like, when's the violence going to creep into this? Where's the violence
going to go on?
Who's going to die? I also felt like immediately before I was really aware of it from the outside, that from the inside, I was reading something that was part of potentially a trilogy, knowing that I'm sure I was one of the first people to walk through the door to watch First Reformed at the Angelica. I was living right around the corner. And I was so taken with that film and its contradictions. And then there we had it the same in a different way in the Card Counter. And then, so, Narvel is this almost blank canvas, and it's sort of like a peaceful dead man walking, like kind of in a happy stasis in life, hiding. But of course, we don't know that yet until Maya comes into the picture.
And it creates just a really intriguing ball of energy from there in a way. And Sigourney, I'll come back to you. This may not be the first time we've seen you play such a harsher character, whether it be Louise in Holes or the director in The Cabin in the Woods, but there's something so fascinating about Mrs. Haverhill and so darker about her that we've seen from you before. What was it like for you getting to the heart of her for this film?
It was quite a journey, because I felt like I hadn't really come across a character like Norma, and Norma has taken this man in who has this violent past. I think that she's not intimidated by what happened. She's not frightened of him. She's quite a risk taker. And I think she does believe in the redeeming power of growing plants. And I think what's interesting is that she has come to rely on this man and become intimate with him. And to the extent that she's willing to give away her family's kingdom. But there's a lot of vulnerability in Norma before you see the harshness. I think whatever you may say about their relationship, she's trying to do the right thing by Maya after doing the wrong thing with Maya's mother. And so I just found, what's wonderful is to come into a role where you can't get to the end of it. You're just, there's no sort of figuring it out. You just keep experiencing it, and it's full of surprises to you.
Well, it's full of surprises to me as well. I mean, kind of like you both say, this film is full of those contradictions that really make for really engaging drama, especially with Norma and Maya as the film goes on. Before I let you both go, I did have a couple of questions outside of the film. Joel, coming to you first, you recently opened up about how George Lucas and Star Wars really helped a lot with your career early on, and how you had to push for a fight scene in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so I'm curious, if the opportunity were to arise for you to come back, be it a season 2 or another project, what would you like to see next from Uncle Owen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have to push that hard. I think there was already a feeling that they wanted to see me mess with a little bit of violence in that series. But yeah, I was definitely keen to push it myself. I don't know. I believe that you should only turn up if there's a good, valid reason for it. So I wouldn't want to invite myself to a party where I don't really belong. And I feel like in many ways that story is maybe come full circle or completed itself in the way that it needed to. But I'm sure there's someone that has, if they had a bright idea, would definitely, put the Hessian on again.
Put the what on?
The Hessian. I was like, joke that the Tatooine fabric of choice is like a Hessian. Do you know what Hessian is? Like potato sack?
No,
like brown, coarse kind of material. I'd love to see someone make a Vogue cover for Vogue Tatooine. Just like greens and browns.
There you go. We'll break up. We'll do that for Uncle Owen for next season when you come back. And then Sigourney, coming back to you. I mean, Avatar: The Way of Water proved to be a monumental success and well worth the wait, especially in building out the world of Pandora and introducing Kiri. Now, I know that 3 was shot simultaneously with 2, but I had read recently that Zoe Saldana said there was still some work that needed to be done on 3. So I'm curious, do you know how the film's come along? Have you been able to see any of it yet?
I know that in January, I go back and probably do some pickups. I don't think there are whole new scenes to be shot. I think it's going to be refining what he's got now that he's closing in on the edit, because he always has too much material, because he loves to shoot. So, I guess, I wouldn't even begin to guess of what we might be doing, but I think it's just, maybe going back to a couple of moments and giving him some footage that he didn't get the way he wants to.
Now, have you been able to see any of the footage that you've had so far done yet for the 3rd one?
No, it's not that kind of thing, Well, top secret, even for us. And then, probably when I go back in January and do a day on it, probably they will show me 20 minutes of it. But otherwise, I'm just in the dark, just like everybody else.
So the problem is if she tells you, then she gets in trouble and you and I get killed. Because
we don't want the Disney snipers coming after us.
We could shoot a scene right now here.
There we go. We got the water right there. That's all we need.
Oh, hold your breath.
Well, for my very, very final question, coming back to the film, Joel, I'll come to you. I really love the dynamic that you and Quintessa have throughout the film. It feels very authentic and honest as the characters evolve and get closer to one another. What was that like developing that with her throughout production for this one?
Quintessa is a ray of light, and an excellent actor. And, one thing I will say about that is, I might look young. I'm not that young anymore. And, one of my concerns about the screenplay was, is this relationship that develops between Quintessa's character, Maya, and I, is it there to be titillating for an audience, or is it there to be challenging? Because there's a big age discrepancy. And I was really happy to hear Paul say that he wanted people to be challenged by as much as they are with the sexual relationship that happens between myself and Sigourney's character. And, because I've often been really confused, even as a younger man, when it seemed okay for these really old guys to be in these sexual relationships with really, really, really young women on screen. And it was there to kind of excite the audience. Paul's not doing that. But within that, we weren't allowed to really judge that, as characters. Like, I have a romantic inclination towards a young woman, and it's a complicated scenario in the trilogy of characters here. And it's a complicated scenario given the kind of white nationalist past of my character, who has put things behind him, except for the fact that his whole body is adorned with the markings of that history. So, and that's the challenging relationship that Paul wanted to establish and ask questions of the audience within this story. But for us, building that relationship was important, and part of it was built on a shared history of other things like drugs and a shared history of violence. But I really feel like people need to see the film and ask themselves whether they are backing that relationship or whether they're confronted by it.
Well, I think you and Quintessa really captured that very well. They do a phenomenal job in this film, as everybody does. I really look forward to people getting the chance to see this and spreading the word about it. So thank you both so much for taking the time to chat. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.